Craft beer reviews, brewing questions, past episodes of Brew For You and Brewing Today can all be found at beerloons.com, the site for brewing information on the internet. Hi everyone, I am your host, Mike Campbell, and welcome to Brewing Today. Today we are continuing our series on off or unusual flavors in beer. On today's show, I am going to discuss the flavor of sweetness. You might hear a lot of brewers use the term cloying as well. Keep in mind that some beer styles will allow some room for sweetness, but it should be in check with the beer. What we're going to talk about is when the brewer or brewery has gone a little nuts and the beer is too sweet. So to make our sweet beer, because we always get to have the fun of discovering what a sweet beer tastes like or what the off flavor tastes like, I am taking a light lager and I am using the ever popular Budweiser Select 55. You can use anything that's a light lager, Coors Light, Bud Light, I don't care, whatever you use. And we're also going to take a 1/4 teaspoon of regular old table sugar, and we're going to add that to a 1/2 teaspoon of water to help the sugar dissolve, basically. Once we have those mixed, we're going to add the sugar water to our beer and mix it in. Nummy nummy. So let's go ahead and taste to see what we think. Feel free to pause the recording to get all of this together and start playing the audio again when you have caught up. You'll find you get more out of the episode if you actually try this at home. So let's try this at home. Is that a great beer or what? At least now you can pick out sweetness in a beer. That's kind of the goal. I used about 1/2 a can on this one because it didn't seem like we're adding a lot of sugar. Unfortunately, the information that tends to be out there doesn't really give you beer amount. I would say 4 ounces is probably plenty to get the flavor of sweetness because I do notice it, but not very strong with about roughly 6 ounces in my glass. So if you really want to find out, do about 4 ounces of beer on this one. All right. So don't forget, you can follow the Beer Loons on Twitter by searching for the name Beer Loons. That's really tricky. Like I said earlier, what we are focusing on here is when the beer has too much sweetness in it. A lot of Belgian styles have beet sugars in them, which make for a sweeter beer. But if left in check, it is perfectly okay. However, I find that a lot of Belgian triples, quads, things like that, are out of balance. They're so sweet or cloying that they make for a poor beer as far as I'm concerned. I know I might be in the minority here with that statement, but I'm not a super sweet beer fan. I know there's a lot of people that really like these Belgian beers, and there's nothing wrong with a lot of the beers. It's just these triples and quads and things just are so out of balance to me, but they've been brewed for so many hundreds of years that they're just kind of widely accepted that that's fine, which it is. I mean, a beer can be whatever you want it to be. To me, it's just too sweet. Adding sugar to beer not only adds some sweetness to the beer, but it also adds alcohol. Simply put, sugar equals alcohol. So the more sugar, the more alcohol. The problem is that sugar will leave flavors of itself in the beer. So used sparingly, sugar is fine, and a unique flavor twist. Used in excess, it creates a sugar bomb. So why would you use sugar instead of more grain? Because the brewer is actually looking to leave the sweet flavor in the beer, and grain or malt does not leave the same flavor profile behind. You can use table sugar, sugar in the raw, beet sugar, honey, brown sugar, etc. It really doesn't matter, as these will all add sweetness to the beer, but which sugar you use will leave a different flavor in the beer. Many brewers will use different sugars to prime their bottles with. Instead of using priming sugar, which is corn sugar here in America, brewers will use all the sugars I just mentioned. That way you can get a little sweetness and flavor without it being overpowering. You can also use things like molasses and maple syrup if you want. You can have a lot of fun with the different sugars, create much different beers from either how you prime the beer with or your bottles with, or if you use sugar in the actual brewing process itself, you can really have a real impact and a real different flavor in your beers. Basically, anything that is sugar, that is a fermentable sugar, is perfectly fine to use. So the reason why I say a fermentable sugar is not every sugar is able to be fermented. Maltodextrin is an example of that. So that in the case of using maltodextrin, you're just literally adding sweetness to the beer itself. So it won't be fermentable. So have some fun. You can definitely play around with this. But now that you know what this sweetness tastes like, you should hopefully know not to go too crazy with it either, because it can really ruin your beer. So I hope we've answered your questions on this topic, but if I haven't, or we didn't go into enough depth this time for you, email me at MikeC, that's M-I-K-E, the letter C, at beerloons.com with your questions. I'll be happy to explain anything in further detail to you. We want this to be an interactive show with you, so don't be shy about emailing us. Following us on Facebook and Twitter can also work. We got a Google Plus page as well. And please, ask questions. I'll be happy to answer them, or maybe some of the other listeners will as well. So that's going to do it for our show today. And don't forget about our craft beer reviews on the Brew For You show, now shortened to about 5 minutes or less. Thanks for spending some time with us this week. And until next time, cheers.